This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFL TV in association with Macklin's Gym Marbella. We're at the offices of Frank Warren again. Becoming more regular.
It is, isn't it? Our little chats, all good.
Yeah. Right, first of all, just to touch on obviously the World War III card I want to start on. You announced that last week, 3 world title fights. There's been a slight, obviously, change you announced yesterday in the fact of Liam Smith will now fight John Thompson from New Jersey in America instead of Michel Sorrow. So what happened, Frank, with that?
Well, first of all, we've still got 3 world title fights in there, so that's not a problem. What happened was that Bob Arum and I agreed terms for 2 fights on the card. One was Magdaleno against Terry Flanagan, and the other one was Liam Smith's opponent, which is going to be Sorrow. Unfortunately, and that was confirmed in writing, what we agreed. Unfortunately, Top Rank had a problem with Sorrow and couldn't deliver him, so we moved to the next available contender. You know, as long as Liam gets his world title fight, that's all I care about. And thankfully, we've got a good opponent in there for him. He's 17-1. He caused a big upset in his last fight. He fought on that ESPN BoxNation tournament and knocked out the favourite in 2 rounds. So you know, he can bang, and an American, so I think it adds a bit more flavour to the show. But it's a great opportunity now for Liam in his own backyard to come away with a title.
I suppose the main, obviously, focus from your aspect was the fact that the fight still took place on the 10th, involving Liam Smith in a world title fight, which is still happening, which is the main point.
Exactly. We've gone to the next available contender in the rankings. You know, it's not my fault, and it's not Bob Arum's fault. You know, he thought that the guy would jump it, but he didn't. So that's where we are, and we move on. And you know, the show's still on. We've still got the 3 title fights on. It's still World War III, and I'm looking forward to the show.
Can you tell us anything about the so-called issues between the promoter and the fighter?
I don't know what their problems are. You know, that's their business. It's not mine. I'm not dealing with the manager of the fighter or the fighter. I'm dealing with the guy who's actually got the contract with him. And the guy had the company that's got the contract is Top Rank. So I've dealt with them and done that. You know, with best intentions, and they've agreed a deal with best intentions and confirmed that in writing to me. So anyway, it is what it is, and we move on.
So I'm assuming the WBO were very efficient in obviously resolving the situation as quickly as possible.
I mean, you know, we go to the next available contender. Otherwise, the fight wouldn't go on till, you know, going through a long process. That fight wouldn't probably have taken place till November or even December. So that's not right. It's a vacant title. So you know, thankfully they supported what we asked for, and we've still got 3 world title fights on, which I'm looking forward to. We've had a great uptake already for tickets. Nearly half the tickets have gone already, and we're in, you know, holiday time, August. So once everyone's back in September, back in the swing of things, I'm sure we're going to be sold out, and it will be a fantastic night out there.
World War III, in the many cards you've done over the last 100 years.
Not steady on. 90
years. Where does it rank amongst them?
I think they're good. I mean, I think it's a cracking show. I mean, there are a lot of good fights on there. And I know we've talked about it before, but you know, when you look down the card, Andy Lee and Billy Joe Saunders in itself, I think is a potential fight of the year. Terry Flanagan hasn't got an easy job in his first mandatory defence, which is against Diego Magdaleno. They fancy the job, and I think Terry's a much better fighter than people give him credit for. That's a good fight. So you've got 2 50-50 fights there. Liam, he's got to step up now. He's fighting a guy who's coming off of a confidence-boosting win, a KO in as I mentioned, in the tournament in ESPN, in John Thompson. So that's going to be a tough one. We've got Luke Blackridge against Lee Markham. That's a top of the bill, small hall fight anywhere, isn't it? You know, that's a good one. And then we've got Tom Stalker in with Craig
Evans.
That's a make or break for one of them.
Yeah.
Jack Cattrall's on there, got a defence of his title. We've got young Jimmy Kelly we just signed is on there. So it's a cracking card.
Indeed. Also, obviously, this week, or yesterday actually, BoxNation announced that he secured the rights for September the 12th, Las Vegas, Mayweather versus Berto, and also Berto Jack versus George Groves, and Salido and Martinez is also on the card as well. So 3 world title fights there on September the 12th.
Yeah, it's, we've got at the moment, BoxNation has got a lot of world title fights on in the next, in the sort of, was it 4 or 5 weeks period. That's an important fight. In some ways, the Mayweather fight, in as much that he's a big favourite going into the Berto fight, so we're not going to kid ourselves about that. But it's historic, and it's his 49th fight, and he says it's his last fight. That remains to be seen. But what's more interesting for me is the Berto Jack fight with George Groves. I think that's going to be quite an intriguing and an interesting fight. I fancy George to win that fight. Won't be easy, but that's a great fight. And we've got Frank Buglioni at Wembley on the 26th of September fighting Shudanov. So if Frank wins his fight, and George beats Badu, you've got a unification bout there against 2 Brits, 2 Londoners. Do that in September, that'd be a barn burster. So fingers crossed. It's a big, it'd be great if it does come off, but that would be a fantastic night for British boxing. It'd be a great night for those 2 guys. So that's what we would like to do in an ideal world.
Okay, we'll come on to that a little bit more. September 12th, obviously from a UK's perspective, the Berto Jack and George Groves fight, it's somewhat, people probably will be more interested in that than the Mayweather fight.
I get that, and a lot, it's like Mayweather's fight has been written off, and that's what it is. But it's boxing history, so there'll be a lot of interest there, and certainly for the Mayweather fans. But you always want to watch one of your own, don't you? You always want to watch one of the Brits challenging, and he's doing it in the other guy's backyard, or doing it on the other guy's promotion. He's managed by, I think, Floyd Mayweather, Berto Jack. So, I'm really looking forward to that fight. George, I know George is training very hard. He's out in the States at the moment. He sent me a text last night talking about it. So, BoxNation have got behind the fight, got behind that show, and we're pleased to have it.
I'm looking through the BoxNation schedule between now and I think it's the 24th of October. I believe there's 9 world title fights in that period. At the moment, possibly more to add. Obviously, quite notably, those 3 on September the 12th, your own 3 on October the 10th, and then the likes of Terence Crawford against Derry John, Matisse also in action at some point in October. So it's coming thick and fast.
Well, it is. It's a funny thing, I think Terence Crawford gets sort of, everyone's talking about Golovkin to be the heir to Mayweather. I think it's Terence Crawford. I think Terence Crawford is a phenomenal fighter, and I think he's got better and better. And I think he's going to go on to bigger and better things. So we're pleased to have him on the channel. And obviously, from a channel's perspective, is that we're delivering the best from around the world. I mean, they're really, some good action fights, some 50-50s, some tough fights, and certainly from the Brits' point of view, there's a lot of Brits in there. Some of them in 50-50 fights and defending their titles. So it's there's a lot of interest there for BoxNation fans who are following the Brits, and then there's some great fights from around the world. So it's a bit of everything in there, and plus the fact we're working on at the moment. Paul Butler's just been nominated by the IBF in a final eliminator against Jerwin Akajius from the Philippines. The winner of that fights Joe Arroyo for the IBF super flyweight title. So I'm looking forward to getting Paul back in the game again. There's a fight there for him. There's also that Conlon fight that we've been talking about, so he's got a couple of options to go there. We've obviously got Derry Matthews, who's and I think we should hopefully today get the terms agreed for him to fight Barroso and get that on over here. So he'll be defending his interim title against the mandatory. If he comes through that, he then becomes the mandatory to the winner of Crolla and Perez, which incidentally, that fight I understand has not even been made yet.
Okay.
So I'm told. So I might be wrong, but that's what I'm told.
Well, it hasn't been announced yet, so...
Yeah, so I'm sure they're working to get it done, but it hasn't been done yet, so see what happens with that.
Obviously, last time I spoke to you, it was dangled with the idea potentially of the Flanagan-Matthews thing, and I think some people were sort of convinced that this is what you would do for October the 10th. Yeah. But obviously Derry's got his own agenda with the WBO.
Well, it depends. I mean, what we're trying to do is cover all our bases, our options, you know. And the bottom line is, I personally wanted to do Terry Flanagan against Derry Matthews. I think fans would have preferred that, you know, two Brits, especially from the northwest. It would have had a good flavour, Liverpool and Manchester. But unfortunately, they were ordered by the respective governing bodies to defend their titles against their mandatory challengers.
So am I assuming that a Liverpool show will be sort of put together towards the end of the year involving the likes of Paul Butler and Derry Matthews?
Correct, yeah. That's what we're looking at doing, yeah. So we're working on that.
Okay. What's the situation with Derek Chisora at the moment? Obviously, he's becoming mandatory for Tepper's title, European title.
He's been made the mandatory challenger to that, so I don't know, it's going to take a few months to get that before the fight's due to take place. So Derek came to football last night.
He did, yeah.
And we had a chat, and you know, I'm going to look to get him out before then. And he wants to fight somebody in the top 10. He doesn't want to mess around, which is typical of him, with you know, just a marking time fight. He actually wants a challenge. But, so we're looking to see what's around.
Any legs on the Lucas Brown?
No, I mean, you know, Lucas Brown, he didn't look too good last time out, did he? I didn't see the fight.
I haven't seen the fight myself.
The report, he got pretty, you know, called it a report. Not for the money he wants. I mean, it's crazy stuff. That's not going to happen. But he can have. Lucas Brown wants to be sensible. He'd have that fight in a heartbeat.
I mean, just judging on social media, I think that's a fight that would seem to interest people.
Well,
but
you know, maybe that can happen. We will see. I think Lucas Brown might want it. Whether his handlers want it is another thing.
Okay. Obviously, last time out we had a discussion about the lightweight scene and sticking them all in together, your
seal
bids, etc., etc. Did mention this to Eddie Hearn in an interview recently. Didn't really talk too much on the seal bid thing, but just his outcome from that interview was that if you wanted to make an offer for one of your fighters to fight theirs, and that's the way that he would see that going forward.
Well, you know, that's time consuming and everything, and let's get something straight. First of all, is that people say about, he keeps saying about, you know, my BoxNation fighters won't fight on Sky and vice versa. Well, that's not true. You know, we've had Craig Evans, we've had Sam Sexton, Steve Bell, all with voluntary deals, not purse bids or nothing, have all fought on Sky in various on matchroom promotions. I've had some of their fighters fight on my shows, but they've all been purse bids that I've won. They've not been voluntary; they've been actual purse bids. The reason I talked about the sealed bid, because it was quite simple. You know, he's got his envelope. I've got mine. Barry can open them. I don't care who opens them. There, the winning bid gets the fight. And I understand now he's saying that his boxers or boxers that are contracting don't want to fight on BoxNation, and they want to fight on Sky because, according to him, they have a bigger audience, which is rubbish because we've seen some of the ratings. So that's total rubbish. You know, first of all, is that Sky is a multi-sport channel. It's got, I think, about 10 million subscribers. People don't just subscribe to Sky for boxing. Most of it, you know, is about football, Premiership football, movies, cricket, whatever else you want to watch. About those 10 million, for example, I think, is it Luke Campbell? I think one of his recent fights, about 60,000 people, 60-odd thousand people watched that fight. You know, we've got a customer database of nearly 500,000. Some dip in and out, some stay with us depending on what the fights are. But we've got, you know, more people watch our shows on average than watch the Sky shows. Now I'm not talking about, you know, the big Carl Frock fight which went on pay-per-view. I'm talking about their average shows compared with our average show. And people say, well, how do you know how many people watch yours? Well, we know by how many subscribers we've got. You don't subscribe to a boxing channel not to watch the boxing. We know what they subscribe to watch, which is boxing. It's not football, it's not, you know, rugby, it's not cricket, it's boxing. So we know what our numbers are, we know how many people watch us. So, talking about audiences, I think our audiences are larger than theirs according to the figures that I've seen. He also says that it's because of exposure, and it's not about money, because we pay good money for fights. I think most of our fights are paid better than theirs are, in my opinion. And if it's about exposure, then why don't you just give the fights away to ITV for nothing, like Barry McGuigan did, or more or less for his show in Frampton? If that's what it's about, fighters fight for money. That's what they fight for. They're professional boxers. They're not amateurs. You know, they want to get well paid for their work, and they want to be looked after, and they want somebody involved with them, whether it may be, whether it be Matchroom, whether it be me, you know, our group, whoever it may be, guiding their careers. So let's cut through all that rubbish about, you know, where they want to be seen, where they don't want to be seen. Put the seal bid in. The winner of the seal bid, depending on what the fight is, gets the fight. So if, for example, I'm lucky enough to win the bid, then we put it on BoxNation. And I've got a situation that may settle all of it. We can give it to Sky 5-6 days later, and they can show the fight, or vice versa, depending who wins. So everybody wins. They get their exposure, they get their money, and the fans get the fights they want to see.
Just going back to what you said, obviously, about Eddie Hearn saying that obviously his fighters don't want to fight on BoxNation. They would prefer and want to fight on Sky. And I think he also said in an ideal world, you'd want to keep your fighters fighting on your channel. And,
of course I would. That's what we invest in. But if I think my guy can win and he's getting well paid, I don't care where he fights. If I think he can win the fight, that goes without saying. But we invest in our fighters. You know, this is our money we're investing in the channel and our fights. It's not Sky's money. This is money from our, you know, the group of investors that are in BoxNation who invest in this. So of course we're very precious about what we do. But you know, he should go and have a word with his dad about this. His dad's seen fighters who he thought he had great relationships with, and you know, who said they wanted to be here, there, and have walked in the past. It's happened over the years. Happened to me. Happens to everybody in boxing. That's how it is. No matter who you are, that's happened. His, you know, for him to say that collectively all these fighters just want to fight on Sky, I think it's rubbish. What they want is to get well paid and get recognition for what they do and move on to the bigger picture. I mean, you know, I don't know what's going on at the moment with James DeGale, Selby, whoever else it is. Was there another one? I can't remember who it was. They've decided they'd much rather go off to the States and go and fight for Al Heyman. You know, that's what happens.
So, I mean, aside from your, like, obviously the suggested purse bid idea, surely though, aside from that, in an ideal world, if you want to match your fighter against one of theirs, i.e. you talked about Flanagan and Ricky Burns, for example, then why not the conventional way of using...
But we've done that in the past. I can show you a string of emails we've sent to make fights. Actually, to be honest, it was a while ago, but a string of emails. It's just a bit of tennis, email tennis of offers. That's not getting us anywhere. You know, I offer this, he offer that. It doesn't go anywhere. Just put the seal bid in. It's the end of it, isn't it? We all know publicly that fight will happen, depending what the fight is. And you know that once the bid's open, that was the terms that we all agreed, and we move forward with the fight. It's very quick and easy. You know, talking about fighters who want to say they want to box on, you know, his fighters who want to box on Sky. Well, George Groves likes boxing on BoxNation. I asked him, he says that. You know, we got behind him. We bought his fight.
Okay.
Who had his last 2 or 3 fights, I think, on Sky.
Right. Obviously, moving forward, there's domestically as well a string of shows that you've got coming up. Mitchell Smith is fighting Harrow Leisure Centre end of October, I believe.
Yeah, against George Jupp.
Also, I think you announced a show involving Tommy Langford
Yeah.
the 3rd of October, I believe.
That's correct. He's fighting up in Wolverhampton at the Civic Centre there, so we're just sorting out his opponent. And these are all good young fighters, I mean, good quality young fighters that have come through the system, our system, and they're all sort of, you know, I think fighters that are going places. You know, you talk about Tommy Langford, you talk about Jack Catterall, you talk about Mitchell, and the whole. You know, there's a whole bunch of other youngsters there. I think they're all going places. I think they're quality fighters, decent fighters, and you know, the next year is going to be quite interesting. The interesting is going to be, you know, Boxing Right is going to vote for their best young fighter of the year this year.
Who won it last year?
Can't remember
Apologise.
now.
I've
It's
forgotten.
terrible that, I just can't remember. That's pretty rude.
But I think didn't you believe that Paul Butler should have won it last year?
I think he should have done that, yeah. He won a world title.
Yeah.
He won a world title. I
I
can't remember.
can't think who actually did win it.
I think Paul should have been the guy, but anyway, he didn't. So that was that.
Obviously, you've got your shows now covered until really October. So obviously November, December, we should expect some more announcements.
Yeah, we're
regarding
doing
this stuff.
Nordorf Robin show, the charity show we do. That's going to be at the Hilton Hotel on the 23rd of November. So we've got a decent little card that we're putting together there. So we'll announce that as well early next week.
Did you Google Ronda Rousey?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I did. Well, of course I did. I had a look and yeah, all good. And, not for me, but good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever floats your boat, as they say.
I think BT Sport cover UFC, don't they? So
They do. I've not got a problem with UFC. As I say, it's just that, you know, for me, I'm pretty much a boxing man, and I like my boxing. And there's nothing wrong with UFC, and obviously it's got a great following. And as I mentioned last time, they've done a fabulous and tremendous job in promoting it. No doubt about that. But I don't like people being hit, you know, on the floor and holding them down and hitting them and all that. It's not for me. Queensbury rules.
Queensbury rules.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't ever make Billy Joe against Katie Taylor?
I think I'll leave that one. I don't want to get back onto that subject again. I think we've flogged that one to death.
Yeah, I think Billy Joe was slightly relieved he weren't going to get much of a backlash back from his some of his comments he made. But
no, Bill's. I think Bill said enough about that. I mean, he's focusing now on his fight. He's got, you know, those two. That's a tough fight, you know. That's a good fight, I think, for the fans, and it's going to be an interesting fight. I think that's going to be a real, you know, be a big atmosphere around it. So I'm looking forward to that one.
certainly. All right. Well, listen. Like I said, unless you've got anything else you want to get off your chest, then
Buy a striker.
yeah,
Still not done it, has he?
we've got a week to go.
He's not going to buy a striker. And what we've
Talking
got-
about Arsenal, by the way, if
Yeah,
people are wondering what we're actually talking about.
No. I thought it was, you know, I think if you was a Liverpool fan or a neutral last night, it was a good match to watch. It for me as a fan, it was like so frustrating. It was like, you know, carry on from last season, same old thing. You know, just no leader on the pitch, no captain. You know, where's the Tony Adams, the Vieira? We lost that sort of generalmanship on the pitch. Striker, just not there. And I don't get, you know, I like Theo Walcott, but you know, they just handled him, didn't they? Too big for him. They're pumping eyeballs into the centre for a little guy, and they just, you know, he just never had a chance in it. I don't understand what is going on there. He needs to buy a good, solid, strong defender and a striker.
Well, we've got a week before it happens. Usually, I don't know, he's pulled something out of the bag.
What's he pulled out of the bag? He had pulled nothing out of the bag.
Well, he has.
Well, what?
He pulled out Ozil on the last day.
Well, but what? And then he played well up until the end of the October, and then for the next year he never clicked at all. You know, it's just that's nonsense. Should have bought Suarez with the money.
Yeah, well, they tried.
Yeah, but the money they got, they should go out and buy a player. Go out and buy somebody. You know, just go and break the bank and buy somebody. You know, as Mourinho did. You know, that's what Man City have done, and it's, you know, it's all very, you know, if you're setting your bar level at qualifying for Europe, which is, I mean, not, everybody's not an Arsenal fan as well, but you go, you do well, you're in Europe every year, but you want to win something. It's like saying to a fighter, you're going to be a good British champion, but you want to win a world title. You don't want to just say, well, you're just a British champion, and I think that's unfortunately where we've got and sort of become used to. I know we won the FA Cup twice, but, you know, up until a couple of years ago, you know, Arsene Wenger didn't really give a monkeys about the FA Cup. It wasn't on his list of priorities. And what we need is, we need some players. We've got some good players, but we need serious strengthening in areas where we know we're weak. I mean, look at the squad last night. I was looking at Liverpool on the back of the programme. They had their squad and our squad, and I think they had about another 10 or 15 players more than we've got.
Cover for Coquelin.
Well, that's it. You're relying on players. I mean, last night a couple of players get injured, and then you haven't got the cover, and you haven't got the depth of the squad. And we've got that. And you're sort of looking on the halfway. Was it sort of towards the end, and you see an Arteta warming up, and you're thinking, you know, is that really where we're up where we should be? We shouldn't be there, should we?
We shall see what happens. All right, Frank. Well, listen. Thanks for talking to IFL TV. I'm sure we'll catch up again soon. But like I said, bottom line, plenty to look forward to on BoxNation.
Some great fights, yeah. Some great fights on there, and more to be announced.
Definitely, cracking fights.
Good, cracking.
Is that your word? That's your word, isn't it?
What is fights?
No, cracking.
I'm cracking.
No, everything's cracking, isn't it?
Well, yeah, especially me.
Frank
creaking.
Frank Cracking Warren, I think.
Creaking Warren, yeah, something like that.
All right, this is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFL TV. Thank you for watching.